The humanitarian organization Gift of the Givers says it will add more charges of war crimes against humanity against Israel in the International Criminal Court. Dr. Imtiaz Sooliman joins me now to expand on these charges. Dr. Sooliman, good to speak to you. It's not often that we chat where you are aggrieved. Now speak to us about what's motivated Gift of the Givers to engage the legal team and pursue charges against Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for these war crimes.
Good evening, Hugo. I mean, what we're seeing there is an outright genocide. You can't sit still and watch how people are being massacred. It's wrongly called a war. This is not a war. A war is where there's two armies, tanks on both sides, planes on both sides, artillery on both sides, missiles on both sides, navy on both sides. This is an aggressive army, the fourth largest army in the world, attacking unarmed, innocent people. And in the process, yes, the thoughts were there from the beginning, if there's some kind of move to take Israel and the Prime Minister and the Defense Minister and other relevant people to the court, what do we do? Unfortunately, a French senior counsel, Gilles Divas, got together and started the process. And together he was joined by 300 lawyers worldwide, and that number is increasing. But still, that didn't help us. We didn't know how to proceed. Until about 10 days ago, or 2 weeks ago, we got called by lawyers in South Africa to say they've already submitted a message to the French lawyer on the 9th of November. And you know what? Do we have any complaints? Yes, we had a huge complaint. On the 16th of November, the head of my office, Ahmed Abbasi, and his brother, Mohammed, a doctor, were coming from mourning prayers, and they were targeted directly by Israeli defense forces, or the Israeli occupation forces, rather. They were killed instantly. And then in the process, which was not known to me over a period of time, that one of my staff members had lost 50 of her family in one strike. Now, the way they live in 4 or 5 story apartments, and families live next to each other. Each one got his own flat. And the strike came and took out 50 of our family members. And initial status, they couldn't be found. They were caught in the rubble because the bombing was so intense and so serious, so nobody could find them. And over a period of weeks, more family members got killed. Another of my staff member lost over 20 members of his family. A third one lost another 4 or 5 of his family. And then on Monday, the one that lost 50 members of the family was presenting her story to the media in Cape Town. And she was very worried about her father, her stepfather, her mother, and her sister. On Wednesday, she was absolutely distraught. She got the news late in the afternoon that her stepfather, when he stepped out of his building, was directly targeted by an Israeli sniper. Now that's murder. That's outright murder, and he was killed. And yesterday, another missile struck the apartment, the other apartment, and killed another 50 members. Her mother, the mother's sisters, the mother's brothers, and all the children, all have died. More than 100 family members from one of my staff. How can anybody keep quiet about this? It's time to take action. I've informed the government. The lawyers have informed the government. The lawyers have informed the ICC. And we have a vital role to play. You can't take them to court without testimony, without evidence, without affidavits. My good fortune is, in inverted commas, I have teams on the ground inside Gaza who can collect all that information, get all the video footage, get all the evidence. And we're encouraging them to speak to other Palestinians that we will act on their behalf also, to build a portfolio of evidence, which is very, very crucial in this case, to submit to the lawyers in South Africa, to then submit it to the ICC.
Well, Dr. Sooliman, let's talk a little bit about some insights that you can provide into the role of the legal team in preparing affidavits and presenting evidence to the International Criminal Court. How's that process going to work?
Well, we've already interviewed quite a few of my staff members, whose family members have been killed. And every time I speak to them, they said, we'll add that to the documentation. We'll add that to the documentation. Here's another crime. So the evidence is growing, but it's going to be a long process because so many people are involved. But the process already started over a week ago, and they've collected substantial amount of information. But I mean, we want to make a good job of it and gather much more information, not only from my staff members, but also from other Palestinians. Remember, we in Gaza since 2013. We have offices there. Everybody knows us, and we know the people. And unfortunately, in the process, doctors we know, heads of department, professors have been killed. In the last week or 10 days, there seems to be a system of systematically destroying institutional knowledge. In other words, kill all the doctors who are professors, kill all the scientists, kill all the learned people, take away all information, destroy the people completely, so there's no learning and no progress. And stage by stage, every single day, a highly qualified person is being killed, deliberately targeted. This is not a war. This is genocide, ethnic cleansing, war crimes, crimes against humanity, and it has to go. Benjamin Netanyahu, the supreme terrorist from Tel Aviv, and the sidekick, the Yoav Gallant, defense minister, have to be taken to the ICC. They wanted to take Putin, they've taken others, they need to be taken very, very strong. They need to be dragged there.
Now, Dr. Sooliman, you mentioned that Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant have lost the PR war in a previous conversation. How is Gift of the Givers contributing to the narrative surrounding the conflict, and what advocacy methods are being employed?
Well, it's different. We involved basically in humanitarian relief. But in this case, we can't keep quiet when we see our staff being killed, their family members being killed. We can't keep quiet about that. And we need to, to answer your question more directly, you see, for 75 years, Israel's crimes have been very well hidden. The Zionists have controlled the media all over the world. Everybody else is the bad guy, and Israel was the victim. For 75 years, they should have taken an Oscar for playing the victim. And for 75 years, it's been well covered. Fortunately, in the present times, there's social media. And there's very dedicated journalists on the ground. I mean, there's enough evidence. You can't hide it. 19 South Africans just came out of there 3 days ago. They were eyewitnesses to what's going on. We had doctors from Europe who were there about to carry out medical procedures, and the war started. They had evidence, and they came out. So there's lots of people. So to answer your question is, how do you add to the narrative? We need to expose the evidence and let the whole world see what's really been happening and what has been covered for 75 years. This war it's not a war. This genocide didn't start on 7th October. It started in 1948. It's finally coming to the world body. Unfortunately, you can see the protests. You can see the people standing up all over the world. And people are saying, we now know who you are, what you are. We know the truth. You can't hide from us. And the good thing is, Jewish community members in large numbers have come out all over the world saying, not in my name. They are our friends. They're very close to us. We're the same religions, sister religions. We have a wonderful relationship. And it's about humanity. They and all other groups are saying, this cannot be allowed to happen. And my hats go off to Cyril Ramaphosa, our president, who took the bold move and went to the ICC, supported by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Adeko, Naledi Pandor, and the vote in Parliament, to remove the Israeli ambassador. Those are very, very positive steps. This is not vindictive action. This is about putting right what is wrong. It's about humanity. Because we could have been on the other side. Would we want to be killed and slaughtered in the way it's being done? The answer is no. Would we want somebody to come and help us? The answer is yes. And that's what we're doing right now.
Final thoughts on this, Dr. Sooliman, and that's really the question around the impartiality of the ICC, or the political will of the ICC to persecute some of the world's superpowers, if you will, for want of a better description. Do you expect to get full cooperation from the ICC regarding these allegations that have been leveled against Israel and Netanyahu? They remain allegations, obviously, at this juncture.
Well, it all depends on the strength of that lawyers, the ethics of the people in charge, their humanity, their approach to justice, their fair-mindedness, in their legal acumen, and their willingness to do what is right. If they're not, they shouldn't be there in the first place. And if they're there to do the right things, given the right evidence, which is critical, and want to be fair and just, then of course that evidence is critical. Once it's presented, whatever happens thereafter, at least it has been tried. It hasn't been looked the other way. People didn't sit down. This is about doing everything possible. You may not always win, but to make the effort and to make sure that you've done your part. We can all hope for the best. But each day, fortunately, more and more legal minds from across the world are joining the body. But each day, people are getting more are horrified at what they're seeing. Kids' arms being amputated, legs being amputated, children being killed, deliberately targeted. I mean, no human being can look at this and walk away. And that's why I'm very positive and very optimistic that the evidence is going to be so strong, it's going to be a slap in the face for those guys in the ICC to look the other way.
Dr. Sooliman, we wish you comfort, particularly following the loss of all those individuals that are related to some of your team. Dr. Imtiaz Sooliman from Gift of the Givers.